and welcome back to my channel. So I hope you saw my last video and also liked it. It was about Jordan Peterson and his view of Christianity and how he comes under a lot of fire because of his views on Christianity. Well, when I was making that video, I saw a lot of clips of Sam Harris criticizing Jordan Peterson's videos or opinion for one, and then also comparing these Abrahamic religions with religions of the East, like Hinduism, Buddhism, sometimes Jainism. So I thought I would respond to some of his clips, especially clips about Hinduism, because I'm a Hindu.
We can understand this continuum of good and bad, or positive and negative, in ways that don't use certainly don't use the Judeo-Christian framework for valuing these things. Because if you take the Buddhist framework and map it onto this continuum, you don't get good and evil. You get essentially wisdom and ignorance. Evil is ignorance of all the well-being you and others would experience if you behaved another way. Right? That's the Buddhist game, or even within Hinduism. And again, this connects to your love of stories. You take the Hindu text, the Ramayana, which is just a foundation. It's doing the work that the Bible is doing for Jews and Christians. In that the worst guy in the Ramayana, the 10-headed demon Ravana, the prototypically evil person, is at bottom really not a bad guy. He's a great sage who is just in a bad mood, essentially. Right? He was obscured by ignorance. And so it is in the Buddhist canon. The Buddha meets a serial killer who is wearing a garland of human fingers around his neck, named Angulimala, but he was just one conversation away from being fully enlightened, right? I mean, he was like, it's a different picture of possibility. I'm not saying one is right or wrong. Let's be agnostic about that. I'm challenging your claim that there's something so prescient and useful and durable about the Judeo-Christian framework we're stuck with it for all time.
So I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I didn't really understand this distinction of evil in Hinduism and Christianity, because like how Sam Harris explains it, we don't really have this concept of evil in Hindu or Eastern traditions. It's just sin or ignorance. Like the cardinal sins, in the Eastern tradition we have something called the 6 enemies of the mind, or Shadrabhus. I have made a video on Ravana and what his 10 heads mean. They basically represent all the 6 enemies of the mind, along with your intellect and your desires and so on. So these are the things that are considered sinful, in a way that these create attachment, which then leads us away from God, or away from enlightenment or attainment of the ultimate reality, which we consider as God. So I thought that was the extent of evil or sin in Christianity. And it was when I actually Googled, I realized that there was an evil that is external to us. That is the nature of being evil, that could be internal and also external, which could also have an external force guiding us or making us do evil things. And therefore the entire otherworldliness, the entire demonic or evil spirits or possession that we need to cleanse ourselves of through prayer and through going to church, repenting, so on and so forth. None of these things are actually there in the Eastern traditions. We really take personal responsibility very seriously. So if something goes wrong in our lives, or if we do things that are bad, or if bad things come upon us, we strongly believe that it is our karma or something that is within our hands to change or to heal from. But karma can still be a tricky thing, because we believe in past lives. So there is a running theory that the karma, the bad things that we face in this life or today, are just the consequences of what we did in our past lives or in our past, which we may not have much control over. So
ideal, and you could make the case that
tell
there's
that to the
nothing
Hindus. You tell that to the Hindus. I mean, we've got 1.2 billion people, or maybe it's 1.4 now, who are operating in a religiously saturated system that does not conform to that ideal. There is no one on top of it all.
Well, there's still associated.
Arguably, there's three on top of it all, but
well, there's still an attempt to generate that polytheistic, to integrate that polytheistic reality underneath a single rubric, or you have nothing but continual dissociation of the culture. And I'm not saying this is necessary.
That's a pretty good description of what's going on in India at the moment.
There is a little bit of a nuance there. Because, yes, Hinduism is polytheistic and Buddhism is agnostic. But, well, let's just only talk about Hinduism right now. Hinduism has, and Sam Harris is also right to say that we have a trinity of God with Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara or Shiva, three main deities controlling the entire pantheon, let's say. Brahma created the universe, Lord Vishnu sustains it, and Lord Shiva is responsible for destruction, which then gives way to creation. But the important point is that even though we have this entire pantheon of gods, we still have the concept of one, which is behind all of this. That is, we believe in Purusha or Brahma, the one ultimate reality, the unmanifest consciousness. There are lots of ways to explain that. And that is the core of Hinduism, which is something that Buddhism denies, and therefore it's an agnostic or nihilistic worldview. And that is the philosophical core of Hinduism that we still believe in. Shankaracharya is considered the biggest contributor to Sanatana Dharma, and he is the guiding force in almost everything, including creating a polytheistic Hindu tradition. Well, it's one thing that as Jordan Peterson says, there have been wars between different sects of Vaishnavism and Shaivism. That is one thing, but we do recognize one ultimate reality that is beyond all of these myths and mythologies and stories. So I don't know why Sam Harris missed that.
Sam Harris.
Sam Harris, yes.
Who is a very well-known atheist in the United States.
Yes.
He is an implacable critic of religions. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in what religions is. In fact, he is very critical of religions. But at the same time, he has pointed out that there are at least two traditions, Advaita Vedānta in Hinduism and the Dzogchen Buddhism in Tibetan Buddhism, of which he's aware of, that there is clearly a kernel, a core of truth, which any reasonable person has to admit. So this is your most committed atheist. But at least somebody, not all atheists will accept it. At least this particular atheist also has an open mind about what, and he himself has practiced, and it does practice meditation, and he has explored these traditions with masters in these traditions. And he said,
well, he does know about it. In Hinduism, we don't really care who or what we worship or believe in, or even if we are nihilistic about the existence of a creator or a story of the creation of the universe. I mean, there have been a lot of history to it, and there have been conflicts among the different sects and the castes, and who knows about the truth and who does not know about the truth. I will give you that. But all of that has culminated in one story at the top, and a really liberal way of practicing or believing in God or our own personal deity called Ishtadevata. We can choose who we want to worship and how we want to worship them.
There are 1.2 billion people in India at this moment. Most of them are Hindus, most of them therefore polytheists. Okay. In Dr. Craig's universe, no matter how good these people are, they are doomed. If you are praying to the monkey god Hanuman, you are doomed. You will be tortured in hell for eternity. Now, is there the slightest evidence for this? No. It just says so in Mark 9 and Matthew 13 and Revelation 14. Okay. So God created the cultural isolation of the Hindus. Okay. He engineered the circumstance of their deaths in ignorance of revelation, and then he created the penalty for this ignorance, which is an eternity of conscious torment in fire. On the other hand, on Dr. Craig's account, your run-of-the-mill serial killer in America, okay, who spent his life raping and torturing children, need only come to God, come to Jesus on death row, and after a final meal of fried chicken, he's going to spend an eternity in heaven after death. Okay? One thing should be crystal clear to you. This vision of life has absolutely nothing to do with moral accountability.
So in that way, we are polytheistic, and that has created tremendous issues, especially from the organized religions that then came into India at the turn of the 10th or 11th century onwards. So there have been a lot of violence against Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, all the Eastern traditions that were coexisting or not coexisting in India at the time, or barely coexisting in India at the time. And we have been at the receiving end of lot of violence and political consequences from these righteous communities or cultures who came here to teach us the right way of life. But we have survived all of that, and some of them have assimilated and integrated into the Indian culture, some still, and there are the subsections of them who still protest that, who still fight against that and want to separate or isolate these traditions or cultures. You know what I'm talking about. And Hinduism is something that is always adaptable to change. It depends on who is ruling you and what is the larger societal constitutional structure that we have. And the ways of punishment all depends on who is ruled by you. Who is ruling you. The religion does not dictate how the state should function. So in that way, what crimes are punishable depends on the king or the ruler or the constitution or the dharma shastra you are under.
Believing things for bad reasons divides people. You know, you say, this is our land. Why? Because it says so in a holy book that was written 1,000 years ago in a language half of us can't read. That is a bad conversation starter. The second reason for separating spirituality from religion is to acknowledge that there's more to understanding human experience than science and secular culture generally admit. Ecstasy and devotion and self-transcending awe happen to people in a variety of contexts and sometimes in embarrassing contexts. Now this is a problem for the forces of reason, because the most transformative experiences people have, the experiences they tend to value more than any in their lives, are currently anchored to the worst parts of culture and to ways of thinking that merely amplify superstition and self-deception and conflict.
Sam Harris is one of the most inspiring people for atheists and also for the spiritual seekers of the world. So he is an atheist and he remains an atheist, but he is very curious about the higher self, transcendence, and also reaching the ultimate reality through meditation, mindfulness, increasing your awareness, so on and so forth. So he is one step closer to a scientific understanding of the human potential, the extent of human potential, and reaching the ultimate form that you can through the pursuit of truth and by realizing unconditional love within you. And he advocates separating this kind of spiritual seeking or spiritual studies from the religious framework that almost always keeps you back. So Hinduism certainly has a religious dogmatic aspect to it that really makes it difficult for people who are spiritual in nature. We really have to abandon the belief system that we have as we go forward in order to reach that ultimate reality. Hinduism just doesn't cut it, the religious dogmatic part of it. I mean, these stories have a beneficial side to it because that keeps a lot of people from not going astray. But after a point, they all become kind of obsolete in the pursuit of what is truly true. And he talks about that a lot. So that is all of the Sam Harris clips that I could find where he talks about the Eastern traditions, especially Hinduism. This is just a preliminary search on YouTube. So I'm sure there are more If I find more, I will definitely talk about them. Please share your comments on all of this in the comment section. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. Until we meet next time, bye bye. Have an awesome time.